Knox County students, I'm Stacy Martin and I teach at South Doyle Middle School. Today's lesson is based on week 3 assignment for grade 6th grade ELA. If you don't have this assignment, it can be found by visiting the KCS website at knoxschools.org. Click where it says Student Resources. If you would like to have this lesson printed, the middle school packets are handed out on Mondays and Wednesdays between 10 and noon at each of our meal distribution sites. A list of those sites can be found under the Meal Distribution tab at the KCS website. Please be sure to complete the entire week's assignment before continuing this video. Like I said, if you haven't completed the week 3 assignments, stop and return to this video once you have finished your work so we can go over it together. Now let's get started. One thing that I want to do first is I want to share with you what the packet looks like. So I'm going to share my screen with you. This is what the packet should look like. This is the packet you should have. So if this is not the packet you have, you need to go to the website and get the correct packet, okay? And now I'm going to share with you, what I did was I made some slides for you. So that we can go over the answers a little bit easier. So I've just put the questions there so you can see the answers, okay? Now, some things that, if you're having trouble keeping up with this video, that you can do is that you might be able to adjust the speed on your video and slow down the playing of the video. Also, you can stop. This video is available to you, and you can stop and watch short clips. Then pause, listen, and watch again. Another thing you can do is maybe someone in your household might be able to sit and watch the video with you. And then you can stop the video, share what you learned with the person, and tell them what you understood, okay? I used icons, and I use these frequently in my classroom. But they're very simple icons to help remind you what you're doing. So the first one is a reading one. So when you see that, you're going to read. Maybe I'm going to have you do some talking sometimes. And also on here, we have the pencil, which means you are writing. And then maybe you need to listen, okay? Monday, you were asked to answer a couple of questions. And they wanted you to make some So they said, in the past, you have read a novel and other text about the changes that occur throughout people's lives. So this is something maybe you read in your English class. You may have also read something in social studies or science. Think about something like that in your class that might be controversial. You can also think about change from a different perspective. Maybe you've had a change in your own life, a change in your community, or a change in the broader world. In this unit, you're going to examine arguments and how writers try to persuade others to agree with their opinions on issues that cause controversy. And the first 2 questions were, what is controversy in society and why do we have it? And how do we communicate in order to convince others? So what I did was I did some sentence starters for each of these questions. So I have the question right here, and then for each one I'll have a sentence starter. Now this is a really good time if you answered the question and you said, I really like how she did that. I really struggle sometimes answering questions correctly. So this may be a good time for you to use the sentence starters, go back and put your answers in the blanks. You could also, maybe you didn't answer them. Maybe this is a good time because you just weren't sure how to answer them. So this would be a good time to stop the video if you need to and answer the question using the sentence starters. And I'll do this for each question. So every time I change a slide, might be a good time for you to stop the video and answer the question using the sentence starters. Now, you may not need the sentence starters, and if you don't, that is absolutely fine. Don't feel like you have to go back and change your answers. So the first question is, why do we have controversy in society? Well, we have controversy in society because we have different points of view. Also, we have different experiences and ideas. So everybody's different, which makes everybody's ideas different. So how do we communicate in order to convince others? Well, one way we communicate in order to convince others is we write. I mean, what do you do in the English class or your ELA class? You write. We have to write every day in my class. So that is one way. And then another way is through our speech. Sometimes we'll do Socratic seminars in my class, and that's when you talk about what you're thinking with your ideas. And this is a good way for you to convince others to your way of thinking. All right, so the next question is, quick write. Have you ever tried to change the mind of someone in your family? Were you successful? And if so, how did you convince the person? So I can think of a couple of ways, maybe some of the ways you all tried to change somebody in your family. Maybe you wanted a cell phone and you're trying to convince your parents. Maybe you're trying to convince your parents why you don't have to do your chores for the day. I don't need to clean my room. Who's going to see it, right? Well, were you successful, and how did you change that person's mind? So I can think of one person in my family who loves to try to change my mind. So my niece likes to go with me. Sometimes she goes with me, and I drive her to school sometimes. And so sometimes she tries to convince me why I need to stop to get her a strawberry banana smoothie. And so she will try to convince me, and the way she does it is she always has a 3-point argument laid out. And it's usually something where she says, it'll put me in a good mood, it'll fill my belly up because then I'll be happy and I'll be full. And it usually goes something like that. Sometimes she's successful, sometimes she's not. But what is something that you tried to change the mind of someone in your family? Brainstorm all the meanings you know for the word argument. So argument, this is going to be a really important word for you all to know. But some of the words that I came up with is dispute, controversy, disagreement, maybe a debate, all right? And if you're having trouble, this is a brainstorming cloud. And you can just add a few words out to the side if you need to. You can draw it on your paper, and then you can add each word out to the side to remind you that those words also mean argument, okay? All right, what other words are associated with argument? Also, what other words have similar meanings to argument, and how are their connotations different? It means what makes them just a little bit different, okay? Some of the words that I came up with might be fight, feud, quarrel, and these are similar to argument, but they bring to mind some different things. Instead of, when I think of argument, I think of having a speech or having a right. Well, when I think of these words, maybe I think I'm maybe mad. And when you're in English class, when you're having an argument, you're not really mad, okay? What comes to mind when you hear the word controversy? Well, when I hear the word controversy, I think of a two-sided debate, okay? You got to have two sides, okay? You may have had some different things in there. If you did, that's fine. But, all right, Tuesday, we got to practice our paraphrasing, okay? Paraphrasing is putting a passage of text in your own words. And this is really important because we need to be able to do this. Sometimes we do this when we are taking notes. We also do this when we're writing our papers, and we need to be able to paraphrase. So you got a chance to practice paraphrasing here. So what they wanted you to do is when you communicate your own argument about a controversy or an issue, it's essential to be able to paraphrase information. To practice paraphrasing, they wanted you to read and paraphrase the following quote on controversy. And the quote is, "A wise man has well reminded us that in any controversy, the instant we feel angry, we have already ceased striving for truth and began striving for ourselves." Thomas Carlyle. So your paraphrasing might have said something like, emotions or feelings and disagreements, they don't go together. Argument, you need to argue with facts and evidence rather than feelings, okay? You may have put something along those lines. If it's not exactly that, that's fine, okay? The next question was, do you agree or disagree with Thomas Carlyle's statement? And then explain this. If you said that you agree, this actually would be this would actually be a really good time for you to find someone in your house. Maybe you want to share this idea with them, and maybe they will take the opposite side about why you agree or disagree. So if you want to go do that, that would be an awesome time. This would be an awesome time to go do that. And then down here, if you both want to use the sentence frames to start, I agree with Thomas Carlyle or I disagree with Thomas Carlyle's statement, then this would be a really good sentence frame for you to use, okay? So maybe we'll start with agree. If you agree with him, you may say that feelings, you should always argue with facts and evidence rather than feelings, because feelings have no place in arguments, okay? However, if you disagree with it, you may say, well, emotions make really good persuasive, are very good persuasive techniques, right? So we know that we can argue with and get people to come to our sides based on emotions, right? Okay, so the next one is read the following list of claims relating to controversy from society today and place a check mark on the ones that you agree with or disagree with. All right, this would be another one that would be a really great way for you to get somebody else in your household involved. You can use these maybe when you're all sitting around not having much to do, because if you're like my house, maybe you're feeling a little cabin fever and you want to have a conversation with somebody. These are really good conversation starters. You could play a game also. In my class we do, if you agree, go to this corner. If you disagree, go over here to this corner. So you could do something like that in your house. If you don't have room for that, or if you feel like it's too, maybe your parents or somebody in your house says, no, that's too much, you could do it by standing up. If you agree, stand up. If you disagree, sit down. Or you could switch it up. Disagree, stand up. Agree, sit down. So this would be a really good way to get some other people involved with you. Also, you could FaceTime or text a friend. Just make sure you get your parents' permission. I'm going to read them, and then you give yourself a little check mark with whether or not you agree or disagree. Social networking should be banned at school. You agree or disagree? Cell phones and other electronic devices should be banned at school. Do you agree or disagree? Banning homework would hurt a student's education. Agree or disagree? Certain books should be banned from school. You agree with that, or do you disagree with that? Junk food should be banned from schools. Agree, disagree? Schools should ban peanut butter. Agree, disagree? Kids should be banned from appearing on reality television. Agree, disagree? Plastic bags should be banned. Agree, disagree? Plastic water bottles should be banned. Agree or disagree? I hope you gave yourself some check marks for that. If you need to pause the video and do that again, you can. All right. The next day is Wednesday. And on this day, we talked about what is a claim. And a claim in argumentative writing is the author's position, and it is known as the claim. And the claim functions like a thesis statement. Identifying the author's claim helps you understand the author's opinion or his point of view on a topic. And often the author's claim appears in the opening paragraph, but every once in a while they'll put it in the middle or sometimes even at the end. To identify a writer's claim, you need to look for a statement, a position, or opinion that reflects what the author is trying to say about a controversial topic. A claim will be a statement that is not a fact. So the author should provide reasons that support the claim. So there'll be reasons that back up this claim, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to read the essay. What I want you to do is, as we read it, if you have not already, I want you to stop it. I want you to annotate it, underline important ideas, circle words you don't know, and write questions to the side, okay? Now, I did this to mine. And one of the things that I did is I practiced more of my paraphrasing. And you'll see that along the sides. And every once in a while, I am going to uh, stop between paragraphs, and I'm going to explain some of the things that I did. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the article. Okay. All right. So, A Teacher's Defense of Homework by Andrea Townsend, The Atlantic, September 25th, 2013. I'm a parent and I struggle daily with making sure my daughter does her homework. I can certainly identify with the anxiety Carl Taro Greenfield describes in his essay, My Daughter's Homework is Killing Me, published in the Atlantic October 2013 issue. Here, however, I'd like to speak as a teacher rather than a parent. I'd like to explain why, in my professional opinion, American kids need homework. I teach biology at the Charles School, a 5-year early college high school in Columbus, Ohio. I believe that my job is to prepare my students for college. In order to do that, I teach a wide variety of topics, including cells, genetics, evolution, and ecology using the national science standards. I teach each topic in depth so that the students understand and appreciate the information. I'm going to pause here for a minute. So if you notice, I circled words maybe you're not familiar with. American kids need homework. That is the claim. Okay, it is something that could be argued, right? It's not a fact. And in a minute, we're going to find some reasons for this claim. The other reason why I stopped off to the side is the reason these 2 paragraphs are here is because it is identifying the author as an expert. Wouldn't a teacher know about homework, right? So I paraphrase that this info as this is information about an expert, okay? I teach them about the scientific method, lab procedures, and scientific writing, all skills they will need in college. It is a lot to fit into one short year, and my class requires a lot of effort from my students. I require my students to read 1 chapter out of their textbook each week and to complete a short home quiz on the material. It helps to supplement the notes I give in class so that I can spend more time on labs and other hands-on activities. I learned in college that hands-on work is the best way for students to learn, and that's certainly true. However, it's definitely not the most efficient way. So if I'm going to offer interactive activities in class, I need students to put some time and effort studying outside of class as well. Now, if you look here off to the side here, I sort of summarize or I paraphrase this paragraph because this is one of her reasons. Homework supports and saves time in class for her, right? Okay. A few times a year, I require students to write a scientific paper. We spend a significant amount of time on these assignments at school, but effort outside of class is required as well. And I think that's great. Schoolwork prepares students for work-related tasks, financial planning, and any project that ends with feeling of a job well done. Long-term planning projects and deadlines are a key part of adulthood. And for this one, I'm going to pause again for a minute, and I paraphrase this one. Homework prepares students for the future, okay? All right, so before I start this one, I do want to make a brief, just tell you a little bit about this next paragraph. This is actually the counterclaim or the opposite side. And this is where she is telling you what the other side is saying. Nevertheless, some parents think their kids are getting too much homework. One argument which Greenfield uses is to compare American students with those in other countries. In his article, Greenfield cites the fact that students in many overseas countries are scoring higher than American children while being assigned less homework. He uses Japan as an example. In 2011, Japan was ranked 4th in science scores in the Trends of International Mathematics and Science study. But according to a study cited in Greenfield's article, Japanese students are actually assigned less homework by their teachers. Why then do they achieve more? The answer comes when you look at the differences in our cultures and our views on education. Japanese teachers may not be assigning much homework, but it turns out that Japanese kids are doing plenty of homework anyway. Maybe you noticed that I highlighted things in green. When I go through here, I don't want to be confused about looking for her reasons. I want to make sure I remember that these are the counterclaims reasons. So I used a different color for that. Okay, and then to the side here, I did question, is science the only subject Japanese students scored higher in? I don't know. It didn't tell us, did it? All right. I spoke with Chris Spackman, who is the English as a second language coordinator at my school. Chris taught for 13 years in Japan and served on the Board of Education in the city of Kanazawa. I asked him why Japanese kids are scoring so high on achievement tests, despite having relatively little homework. Because Japanese kids go to Juku, he answered. He went on to explain that Juku is a common after-school program that prepares Japanese kids for achievement testing. In Japan, senior high school is not required or guaranteed. Instead, students compete for spots at prestigious high schools by scoring high on achievement tests. Some schools are for art or college prep, says Chris. You have to study hard in junior high to get into the high school that you want. In high school, Japanese kids continue to go to Juku so that they can get into the college that they want as well. So Japanese kids do academic work outside the school, just not necessarily work assigned by their classroom teacher. There is room for compromise on the homework debate. In their book, Reforming Homework, Richard Walker and Mike Horsley state that while homework isn't very beneficial for younger kids, it's still beneficial for older students. I agree. I've learned while preparing my students to start college early that study skills become much more important than they were in primary school. It's also important for teachers to assign work that's high in quality instead of quantity. The vast majority of teachers I know are careful to only assign work that's important for student success. Remember, teachers have to grade all these assignments. We wouldn't want to spend extra time grading papers that have no value. In the comments on Greenfield's article, some readers assume that teachers don't have our students' best interest at heart. But usually teachers who aren't incredibly devoted to their students don't last in the profession. The teachers who do stay are committed to giving the best education to their students. We wouldn't be assigning that homework, giving that test, or reading that book if we didn't truly believe it was worthwhile. All we ask is that you trust us just a little. All right, so some of the things that I highlighted here is that Japanese students attend an after-school program, and this is my paraphrase over here for this paragraph, okay? And what makes this so nice is that I can quickly go back and look, okay? Because I've paraphrased it to the side. And then some ways that they could change it is that homework is for older students, and maybe quality work, it needs to be assigned, okay? Now, you may have done some things different, and that's fine. This is just how I did it, okay? And then you had to answer some questions. So let's go back to our slides, okay? Now, I'm going to go slowly through these slides just for a second because I have some vocabulary in here that you might be interested in where I went ahead and I gave you the definitions of some vocabulary such as procedures, supplement, efficient, ranked, prestigious, and compromise. Okay, now I don't want to go over all those words, but you might want to go back and look at them if you really didn't know what those words meant so that you could reread the article again knowing what those words are now. So Thursday, the questions were, what ideas about the need for homework stood out to you? So remember our sentence starters. So if you need to go back and answer these using the sentence starters now that we've read the text, you can. So 2 ideas about the need for homework that stood out to me were, 1, she gives homework to help save time in class. And 2, The homework prepares kids for life later, or at college, or maybe at another job. So these ideas stood out to me because this is the reason for me. I mean, this is what I tell my kids in the classroom. I'm sure you've heard this before, but what's made them stand out to you? Because they stand out to me for different reasons. Maybe they stood out to you because maybe, that kind of makes sense. Or maybe you're thinking, well, I'd rather just do it in class. I don't know. What stood out to you? So maybe this would be a good time to pause the video if you need to, and you could share with somebody in the house. All right, question 2. What questions do you have about making homework? Let me start that over. What questions do you have about homework after reading this opinion piece? And one question that I had about homework, I actually wrote to the side of the article, was how many hours did students spend in the JUCO class? That was one question I had. I told you one of my other questions, but this question, they go to class afterwards. How many hours do they spend in there? Because it doesn't tell us, are they there for 4 or 5 hours? Are they there for an hour? How long are they there for? How long are these students there? All right, Friday's question. So this was where you needed to write a paragraph. Okay, and it said, what are some intended goals of homework and how can homework policy be changed to better align with these goals? Okay, and it told you in the instructions is to write a paragraph. So I did one thing for you. I need a graphic organizer. We use these a lot in my class before we try to write. And one thing it wanted you to write about the goals. So I took the goals that I noticed in her piece, in her text, and I put my goals. Goal 1 and goal 2, enhances classwork and saves time. Goal 2 is homework prepares students for college and work life. And then I pulled my evidence. This just sort of helps me organize my thoughts and my ideas before